Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Natalie Cutler-Welsh here. Welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Your Woo. If you haven't seen it, this is my video series where I talk to people all over the world about all things holistic, health, healing, and a little bit woo-woo. So I'm pretty excited. Today, we are going across the world. I'm talking to my gorgeous friend, Melly Rose. She's in the UK. She's from New Zealand. And we are going to be diving into the topic of channeling, using your extra senses to gain insight. Ooh, very exciting. Amazing. Hey, Melly, so good to have you here. How are things?
Hi Natalie, I'm good, thanks. I'm just it's our evening, your morning, and we're just still recovering from our Auckland house and the cyclone and floods.
Oh, goodness.
But managing it all from the other side of the world.
Yeah, well, it is, you know what? It's turbulent times, like right now when we're recording mid-Feb. But whenever you guys are watching this, it's turbulent times, right? And so that's why I really love the insight that you can offer. I mean, Melly Rose, you guys, is a spiritual mentor. She's a healer. She does light languages. You do so many amazing things. But today we're going to focus on channeling and how people can tap into their own extra senses to maybe have a little bit of guidance, a little bit of understanding, and really just to take, I guess, a bigger picture on what's going on in the world, because it's so easy to get caught up and to get worried about the details and the little things. So I'm excited to hear the wisdom that you've got. Before we dive in, Melly, can you give us a quick backstory, a little origin story on how you got into the healing world and what you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, I guess I got into the healing world quite young, so I was very lucky. I had quite a difficult upbringing, single mother, four kids. My mother had a lot of depression and borderline personality disorder. She was a very, very difficult woman to live with. So I think from a young age, I've had that desire to understand how to heal. I've had this desire, and I think I've always had this knowledge that healing can happen fast, much faster than it seemed to be happening for my mother, for example. And then I had a very bad injury. I injured my shoulder at the gym, and I only had 20% movement in my shoulder for several years. I was on miles of anti inflammatories, miles of traditional medicine. And in the end, it took quite a big flip into holistic medicine and being introduced to some other practices and things that finally started this transformation in my health. And so I was living in London in my early 20s, and I became obsessed with health and healing and Buddhism and fasting, and I just kind of collected all of these sort of I guess modalities as I was going, and I became completely entranced with meditation, and I was having amazing experiences. I was sort of being taken by the hand and taken on these journeys and shown. I was just being downloaded with all this information about the planet, and I just thought that was normal. I thought that was the whole point of meditation, and I didn't really have any mentors or guides. I was introduced to fasting by someone at work, just a guy that worked in the warehouse. And so fasting and meditation and yoga became kind of the foundation of my own mental health at a very young age, and I'm forever grateful for that, because even though I veered off the path into corporate and children and all of that sort of thing for a while, and it comes and goes, I had that foundation to come back to. And about probably 8 years ago, I really came back into it with a bang. When I had a whole lot of stuff start opening up, and I just started getting too busy in my clinic on my little side hustle, and ended up having to sort of give up my job and open my clinic up full time. And yeah, and that's how I ended up here.
Well, I love that because, I've known you for over a year and I didn't know about your mom, and that the cool thing about me interviewing all these incredible people that I know is I always learn something new about them. And, Obviously that's been part of your journey, part of your path. And I'm sure some of our listeners can resonate with that type of experience. Secondly, interesting, right? That you just thought this was normal, that everyone got all these, downloads and had this spiritual clarity. I think one of the reasons I'm doing this Wake Up Your Woo video series is to help, I guess, people like me who we're like open to the holistic stuff. We love it. Like I want to enhance my spiritual connection and my holistic insight. And, I did an interview last week with Melaine and we looked at human design. Interestingly, now I've decided to study human design and get my coaching
Oh,
certification, which is
wow.
very exciting because I haven't been called to, other than all the academic credentials that I have, I haven't really been drawn to something like that before, to actually
Wow.
study it. So I'm pretty excited about that. But just coming back to you, it's interesting, right? Because you had these abilities. There's people like me who we kind of want to lean in and tap in and enhance our abilities. And I think, and I imagine you agree that in 2023 and beyond, we will be, remembering how powerful we are as humans, right? We will be realizing, and maybe faster than before, some of our intuitive abilities and such. So let's talk a little bit about channeling for those who might know or have no idea what it is. Can you just give us some basics? Like, what is it? How does it work?
Mm. So for me, I guess the easiest way to explain channeling is that you are working with extra senses that are not the five that we are physically aware of, but they are what we call the clairs. So clairvoyancy, clairsentiency, clairaudience. There's a whole group of them. And what tends to happen, everyone has access to this side of themselves. It's just a question of what is the easiest to tap into. I've obviously had a very natural inclination towards healing from a young age, and I actually believe that trauma activates your senses, because you're often, if you grow up in an unsafe home, you become very hyper vigilant, right? And hypervigilance is an activation of some of these senses. And what you're doing is you're feeling the energy shifts, the subtle energy shifts long before they occur. And so trauma often activates your clear senses. And that's why you often find people that have been through trauma who become healers and end up working in this kind of industry. So that's one thing I would say. So if you haven't had that experience, and you've grown up and very much in the physical world, and then you become interested, then you need to work at other ways to activate those senses, right? So, that usually the best way is to get still in meditation. For people that can't meditate, there's active meditation, forest bathing, really just mindfulness practice. It might be through painting. People are channeling in a multitude of different ways without actually realizing they're channeling. And so, with channeling, what I think is really interesting is people are having access to all this information and they often don't realize that they're channeling. So, I find that really fascinating. And often people are saying to me, oh my gosh, I wish I could da 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 da. And then I'll see them doing something and I'll just be like, do you realize you're channeling here? And, um, and so it is literally working with subtle energy and learning how to soften into it so that you start to receive in a way that it becomes conscious. So instead of unconsciously receiving, you start to become consciously receiving. And that might start with something like noticing signs, right? Triple numbers. Um, you might notice that you start to see a bird that your mum always loved and she has now passed. So you might start to see things in books, like a phrase might jump out at you. There might be, a headline, a license plate. There can be lots of different ways that we start suddenly going, oh gosh, I've just noticed I've seen 111 like 5 times today. Like it will really start, being in your face. And usually this happens when you set the intention to start becoming more connected with the spirit world or the other realms. There's multiple realms. The spirit world is just one of those realms. But it's when you send out the intention to the cosmic web that it is received, and it creates a vibrational shift that allows a change to start occurring in your environment that you can actually perceive, observe, and recognize as communication.
So go ahead and comment, you guys, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, yes, something jumped out at me on a sign the other day. Literally, you saw a sign, or the bird example that Melly gave, or anything else. Comment, let us know in the chat. I'm sure that will resonate with some people. So is it a matter of when you notice that, you just notice it? You're not like, oh, what was I doing when I saw 111 on the clock? It's not, you don't have to analyze it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in the beginning, awareness is the most important thing. And then as you start to, after that becomes normalized, then you want to go a little deeper, right? So then you might be like, oh, triple ones. Oh, okay, that's manifestation energy, right? So manifestation energy means that I'm in a powerful manifesting zone right now. Therefore, I've got to watch my thoughts. I've got to make sure I'm focused on what I want rather than focused on what I don't want, because I am manifesting, I'm drawing things to me. So they always know the level you're at. And initially, they just want to catch your eye. It's like, did you see me? Did you see me? Did you see me? And you're like, wow, I saw you, and as soon as you clock that and acknowledge that, they know that they can start leveling up a bit. And so you're always in conversation with spirit or your higher self. And I think channeling your higher self is probably the most important thing we can learn to do, because your higher self holds all of your Akashic history and all of your wisdom from the conception of your soul. And it will always, always operate for your higher good, even if that means bringing about an illness or a bereavement or something else. Um, and so when we are operating here at the physical realm, we tend to operate from a level of past hurts and programming. And this is what I have learned about the way people treat me and that sort of thing. So, we might be quite defensive or judgmental or whatever. But once we start to soften in and say, I don't want to be these things, they don't serve me anymore, we start to get direct access to our over self or our higher self, that is a completely different realm of information, and that will continue to feed you every time you want to soften in through prayer, meditation, or active meditation, or however you do it. You will start to connect in and receive from a place of greater good rather than the physical realm of pain as such.
Well, that is so timely. I mean, just yesterday I was having a conversation with someone and I was like in my mind remembering the way they treated me here and the way they treated me there, and yeah, and it was, I'm very enthusiastic, but I can also be quite intense, with frustration and
Yeah,
things. So it was definitely that. And it's like sometimes I do actively have to say, it's their journey, Nat, let it go. This is their journey. And that me saying this is their journey is not like, well, that's who they are. It's not sassy. It's like, this is their journey. That's my
yeah,
softening in. But I'm hearing what you're saying about, meditation or prayer, or definitely forest bathing, which appeals to me. And just allowing, things to, rather than getting stuck in the events that occurred and the things that were said. Thank you.
yeah, because that's the difference between our ego mind and our higher self, right? So the ego mind always wants to be in control, but the higher self wants your heart to be in control. And the expression, the mind should always be a servant to the heart, not the other way around. And so what the mind wants to do is attach a story to the event. By attaching a story to the event, we are able to take the emotion to a more extreme level. And so it gets harder and harder to let go of. And so the mind has this desperate desire to stay in control because it is so afraid of what might happen if it's not in control. So it's a protective mechanism that we learn as a child. And the real thing about coming into these other senses is learning to gain control of the mind and move into the heart space. And one little thing that I used to do to help me do that is I would sit quietly, just upright like this, and I would start this dialogue. And so I would start this dialogue, and I would imagine that I was in my head walking around, and my head was really busy, and there was, thousands of people in there, and they all had a job, and they were all trying to distract me. And then I would imagine my neck was like a lighthouse. It was really random, but this is how it came to me. And I was had a little spiral staircase, and I would walk down the spiral staircase of my neck, and I'd go into this chamber behind my heart, and it was like a big oval room. And I'd sit in this oval room, and there was like, maybe some little fluffy sofas and things in there, and I would make it quite cozy. And then I would imagine that there was a trap door over my heart, and the trap door would open up, and a little person would walk out. This little me would walk out, and that was the me of my heart. And then I would start this dialogue with my heart, and I'd be like, hi, heart. And I haven't seen you for a long time. And I know I haven't listened to you much. And I just want to say I'm really sorry. And I want to ask your forgiveness because I have let these people upstairs take over. And they're just running all over the show. They're just totally running the show, and there's no organization up there. And I actually need some different advice. And I feel like you have this advice for me. And I would like to ask humbly if you would take control now, if I can hand over control of this team to you. And so I would start this whole dialogue, right, with this little person out on the trapdoor. And I started to feel very emotional. And I realized that I had a lot of hurt and pain and things that I needed to work through. And so I started doing this, and it took months. I realized that I needed an awful lot of conversations with my heart. But more and more frequently, the heart would just open up, and that little person would come out and start talking to me. And the heart is receiving from the higher self. And so by doing that, I was activating a channel with my higher self. And it was really beautiful. And I started to uh, create this love space for myself where I was able to fill up my own love tank and hold space for myself without my usual technique of self soothing externally. So, that was really powerful for me. And different people will have different little visualizations or ways of working things, but that one worked really well for me.
Well, one of the things I love about that is it's really empowering people when we can help them to not just look after themselves, but like you said, self-soothing, but rather than just going to a healer or a coach, or someone else to answer our questions or fix us or make us better, it's like you're actually teaching us. I mean, we can all probably do the old lighthouse trapdoor thing ourselves in our own time.
Totally.
And really see, like, I actually saw, like, I was thinking, oh, I can teach this to my daughter and she can see her face. You've got a little person. I was just going to see a little face on the heart. But yeah, I think that just giving us these skills and the knowledge that we can help ourselves. We don't just have to go to gurus all the time. I know you're really big on people not, thinking they need to go to a guru. So that's very empowering.
Absolutely.
Great example. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit like regarding channeling in terms of, I would love any insight that you that you've can see for coming in the next few months or whatever. I know you've done some channeling in the past week. I've seen your amazing stuff you're doing on Instagram. You guys, if you're not following Melly Rose on Instagram, she's does some great stories and reels. But what wisdom have you seen or insight have you seen that you might want to share with us today?
So what I have seen recently, which you might have seen on my last reel, is that there's a huge amount of infiltration on the planet right now. And the infiltration is coming in the form of distraction. So I'm definitely noticing that people are finding it hard to focus. They're finding it hard to get clarity of thought. They're feeling very all over the show, so finding it very hard to rein in their thoughts and tending to move towards sort of hypnotic scrolling. And now the interesting thing is, with hypnotic scrolling is that it is if someone was sitting, for example, daydreaming. I think daydreaming is a really great way to almost meditate. So I really encourage people to just sit and stare into space and just let their mind go blank and just almost completely zone out. Because I think that's a really powerful way of, being able to relax enough to receive. But when you're hypnotically scrolling, it's actually more like going brain dead. So it's more like being in a coma. And so it relaxes your brain, but it doesn't allow you to receive. So it's quite different. It's a frequency that lowers your vibration over time, rather than daydreaming, which can raise your vibration. And the fastest way to connect with spirit is to raise your vibration. And so I feel that, there's this huge amount of distraction, a huge amount of infiltration, and we need a practice that we can do every day, even if it's just 10 minutes every morning and 10 minutes before you go to sleep, because a lot happens in the astral realms. And so just get 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. And if you can find something that you love doing, whether it's free flow riding, a walk in the forest, getting barefoot in the sand, meditation is my go to. Whatever it is, find that thing and commit. Set a little alarm so that you're doing 10 minutes and you don't have to look at your clock every 2 minutes and go, is it 10 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Set an alarm so that you can fully focus. So that's what I would recommend. I do feel that this year we're going to, have a lot more revelation happening. And I also feel that we're going to be coming back together a little bit differently. So last year, I really felt these two separate poles rising up. And this year, I'm seeing more of a coming back together. And I feel that not everyone needs to know everything about what has happened. And that's quite important because, we have this desire when we know so much stuff that's going on, we really want people to know the level of it. I feel that not everyone is going to need to know the level of it, but there will be these subtle shifts and changes in the way that they are and the way that they act. So they will begin to, we will all begin to start moving more in this beautiful energy that's actually on the planet. The infiltration is just to distract us from this incredible energy that is already here. And that's the amazing thing. And when we get still, we actually release the distraction and then we can totally tap into that energy. And it is 10 times more amazing than it was 10 years ago. So we could not have even had this level of connection that we have available to us now 10 years ago, because the energy on the planet is utterly transformative at the moment. And it is pouring in spades, especially with a lot of new souls. So, yeah, I think that's really awesome.
Well, that does lift our vibration, definitely, to hear that. I think it's interesting, like I said at the start, during turbulent times, it's so easy to laser focus on this is happening here and that's happening there. And oh goodness, did you hear about that? So we want to be aware of what's going on, but also actively raise our vibration or stay in a high vibration. And I was chatting with some women yesterday, and sometimes it is being selective about who we hang out with, in terms of if you're feeling low and frantic, like actively go and seek someone that either on Instagram or in real life, and watch a video, or can phone that person or spend physical time with that person, to help yourself rise back up, because it's easy to get feeling low about things. But I know we are living through a massive time in history, which is very exciting. It is very challenging, but it is also very exciting. So thank you for that insight. Anything else you wanted to add about channeling before I ask you what's coming up for you in 2023?
I think that the main thing to understand about channeling is everyone has access to their clairs. And you will find that you have more strength in, say, one or two of them. I'm clairsentient, claircognizant. So that means I feel things. Often I feel someone inside of me and they're trying to express something, or I might just have a piece of information suddenly drop in. So that's mine. Play around with what you think your clairs might be, and play with spirit, like play with prayer, play with asking for signs, play with being open, that when a thought comes into your head that seems like a great idea, that maybe it was assisted. And so get your gratitude really strong for little things. And each time you do that, you're lifting your vibration a little bit more, which it makes you a little bit closer to them, and they are able to connect in with you. So I feel that everyone can benefit from channeling, and we don't all have to be a trance medium. This is really just learning how to connect with our higher self, how to connect with the messages of the cosmos and all of those energies that are out there trying to help us.
Oh, that's so good. And you guys, that I have an essential oil business. I love using them as a tool. And I like to pair some of the topics that I cover with oils. And as you were talking, Melly Rose, I was thinking, Hawaiian sandalwood, frankincense to enhance the spiritual connection. And then you started talking about daydreaming, and it made me think of, one of our oils, copaiba, which really calms the mind, and so brings it, I call it the chill out oil, but calming the mind so that we can just be present and not have all the thoughts swirling around. So that's one of the tools that I
love
use.
that oil.
And also when I now going to go and take some time to do some meditation, using those tools and setting the alarm like you suggested, so I'm not checking the clock. Love it.
Awesome.
Amazing. So what is, Melly, let us know what is coming up for you in 2023. I mean, I know you're in the UK for, is it a couple of years? I know you've got your kids, one homeschooling, one not, and you're doing some courses online. Like you had a fully booked out clinic in Auckland, and now you've transitioned to working online, and I'm sure you do see some people in person in the UK, but let us know what you've got coming up in case someone wants to tap into that.
Yes, I'm primarily working one-on-one online now, and that's great. Obviously, I'm working a lot with my clients in New Zealand still, so I'm often up really early or working quite late, with the time difference, and that suits me fine actually, because then I have some space in between for my daughter and homeschooling. And so I'm running workshops. I've just done a basics of channeling workshop, and that just had an amazing response. I was really surprised at how many people booked onto that. And I guess the beautiful thing that showed me was that people are really interested in channeling, and people are really interested in leaning into this other side of themselves. And I really believe in teaching this ethically, so that people know how to look after themselves, they know how to replenish themselves. And so I've got my level 2 upgrade channeling workshop coming up on the 30th of March. And you don't need to have done level 1. You can purchase the level 1 workshop off me if you like, but level 2, we're going to be going deeper, and we will be discussing things like infiltration and psychic attack and these sorts of things, and how to properly protect yourself. And so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, and that's looking like it's going to be a good one too. So, and I am looking at developing a course and writing a book, although that is happening more slowly. So you really just stay tuned.
All in divine timing.
I hope so.
That's amazing. Okay, and let us know, where can people follow you? I mentioned before Instagram. You're probably on Facebook too. What do they search up?
So on Instagram, it's just at Melly Rose Healer, and Facebook is Melly Rose Healer. So I'm available on both of those. And my website is at Melly Rose, atmellyrose.com.
Love it. All right, you guys, I will put the links there for you as well. So it's a click and make it easy. And it's amazing. You know, you do so many good stories and great insight that people can go ahead and watch some of those videos in the meantime. And definitely, you guys, if you're keen to learn more about channeling and dive in, I would say sign up for the workshop that's coming up. If you're listening to this and her workshop is done, like it's way past March, I'm sure Melly's got something going on. So you can just go and check her out on one of those links. Amazing. Thank you so much, Melly. Hey, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with our audience today?
No, I think that my main message would be to just play and have fun, and really just open a dialogue, give spirit something to link in with. And the best way you can do that is by talking. You know, it's not a one-way street. We can't just say, "Give me a sign, give me this, give me that," and give them nothing back. We've got to have this dialogue and these open lines of communication. And I always tell people that, you know, a beautiful way to start connecting in to the subtle realms is through your imagination. And there's a reason we have an imagination. It's not this wasted, weird thing in our mind. It is the first line of communication with the subtle realms. So it's a great way to play around. And if you start a visualization, then they have something to latch onto, and you might find that that shifts halfway through, and that's them bringing their lot in. So yeah, just play and have fun.
Yay. I love that. Hey, you guys, if you do go ahead and you do some of these things that we've discussed today, please come back and comment. We would love to hear. You can comment either on Rumble. We've got the Wake Up Your Woo YouTube channel. So Rumble channel. So you're probably possibly watching it there. I also do have a YouTube channel. So you're probably possibly watching it there. And I will be putting this on Facebook as well. So wherever you're watching, please go ahead and comment, or you can private message us and just let us know, like, oh my goodness, I did the lighthouse activity and I talked to my, my heart, or whatever it might be. We're super excited because that's what we're here for, to help you lean in and to help you wake up your woo. Thank you so much, Melly, for being here today with us tonight
Oh,
for you.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you. Amazing. And you guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Wake Up Your Woo show. Definitely go and check out the other episodes. I've got one all about star seeds, like I mentioned, human design, looking at energy, all sorts of things, and a few more coming up. I just see who comes in and I interview them as they come in. But get in touch with me if you think that you've got a certain guest or suggestion of topic. I'm open to hear. And if you want help with coaching, connections, collaborations, and upping your brave, that's what I'm all about. You can check it out, upyourbrave.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at GoToGirlNZ. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we will see you next time.
Awesome.